Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. What I'm going to do is start off with a quick PowerPoint presentation, just kind of covering what we're going to go over, just some of the basics real quick. This is a intro class, so it's not specifically new features in Darkroom Booth, but it's more for beginners. We will cover some of the new options that were added, but we'll go ahead and get started with the presentation. It's a quick 9 slides, and then a lot of the files, including the presentation, are going to be downloadable from the Help Center. So about me, I've been with Darkroom software for almost 10 years, but I've been working with the application for 20 years with Darkroom Core, Pro, and previous versions. So, but I do have a background in photography. That's my what I studied in school. So Darkroom Booth 2024, it's a free update as long as you have a current maintenance plan. If your maintenance plan's been expired for less than a year, it's $95 to renew your maintenance plan. If it's been more than a year, it's $195. The maintenance plan covers updates, support, along with the new Darkroom phone, Darkroom email, and image hosting for Twilio, as well as support. So one thing a lot of people don't know, but while you can download the trial and test it out, so if you're thinking about buying it, you can kind of work along with us. But while it's in trial mode, you can also, I call it designer mode. You could design templates on your desktop and then share them with your booth. And we'll kind of go over some of that in a little bit. But on an unlicensed copy, you can design templates and then you just copy them to your booth. So for today's webinar, we asked a few questions. I wanted to share some of the information that we gathered. Specifically templates, we're looking at about 25% of the people are purchasing templates, and darkroomtemplates.com is a good place to purchase, but then 75%, and you can see it kind of matches up here that none of the above, those would be the people that are purchasing templates. And then these are the different applications that people are using, Photoshop being the major one, but I'm seeing more and more people are using Canva, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit and some of the options we have there. And then Illustrator got a small slice, but Illustrator is still a good program. It's just a little bit more complicated. More people are familiar with Photoshop. So I just wanted to share that information. And once again, this will be downloadable. In this, I'm really surprised that a lot of people, more people aren't using Event Gallery. That would be the one thing that I would suggest above, would be the next thing after owning Darkroom Booth is look at Event Gallery. It's great for sharing. It gets rid of some of the hassles with sharing via text message or email, but it's the more experience is more robust, and we'll get into that and how to use that a little bit. But this number, the orange, should be way higher than that. So I wanted to include this because we get this question all the time, and we really don't get into camera settings, but this is kind of just a basic rule for your digital SLR when you are shooting with a strobe. Your shutter speed should be, these are a little bit out, okay. The shutter speed should be 1/125th of a second. And the reason for that is your strobe has your shutter has a sync speed, and if it closes too fast, it won't match up with the strobe and you'll get a dark line. So kind of a rule of thumb is 1/25th of a second. F8 you can kind of play around with and get more depth of field with a larger aperture, but F8 is pretty good for getting groups of people. It has you have more focus, range of focus. And then ISO, this is something you kind of play around with, 200, and that's the sensitivity, and I have the definition, so it kind of explains. And then if it's too dark, increase the ISO. If it's too light, reduce the flash power, because you can typically only go to 100 ISO, so more than likely your flash is just putting out a little bit too much light. So this is something that you can keep with you. So whenever I was first learning photography, I always had a little note, so I go remember to set my camera settings to whenever I was shooting a studio. And then we have the Help Center. We'll get into this, but this is a huge resource that you have with guides on how to learn the software, what we've released, the release notes, sample templates. You can create tickets from the Help Center, and there's also a new community forum on the Help Center. So if you're not visiting the Help Center regularly, it's a good idea just to stay up to date with features and options that you have. And then I included this. This is in the PDF, so it's a good idea to keep this with your booth. Put your license code. Here's you can scan this and it'll take you to the Help Center. But it's a good idea to keep your license code with the booth just in case you need it. If you need to deactivate, activate a different computer. But having this, that an attendant can scan that and do a keyword search on something they might be running into, that's really helpful. So it's a good idea to print this out, cut it, and then tape it to the inside of the booth. And that should be our slideshow. So we are going to first jump into the Help Center, and a lot of people will look at the updates section in booth. I'll show you that in a second, but a better place to look for updates is going to be the Help Center, specifically because we'll push out the update here first, and we have the release notes, so you know what is either fixed or what was added. And because we're kind of getting new with 2024, this build right here, we have guides for every new feature that was added recently. So that's the reason why we're not necessarily going to cover all the new features, because they've already been covered in shorter, more concise videos. So if you're curious about anything new that was added, this is a great place to learn a little bit more about that new option. And but right here's your download. As long as you have a current maintenance plan, it's a good idea to stay as up to date as possible. And like I said, a lot of the information or the content we're going to be using in this webinar is downloadable. If you go to booth and then right down here under webinars, you'll see there is a page, and this video, the recording from this webinar will be available so you can rewatch it. But there's a PDF. We have some sample files we're going to download, link to some Canva templates, and then a couple other helpful links that we'll go over in just a moment. So before we actually get into the application, do we have any questions that need to be answered? Kind of looking through some of these. Okay. So, if you're not on the latest build, it's a good idea to download from the downloads page. Go ahead and close that. And we've gone over that. We'll get into Event Gallery in just a moment. Okay, so I've reset booth back to the default settings, and just so we're all on the same page, normally I have a whole bunch more sample events that I've added, and in a little bit I'll show you how you can download a whole bunch of additional sample events. So first thing that we're going to want to do is connect our camera, and let me go ahead and just turn the camera on. So if it's a directly supported DSLR or mirrorless in this case, it should show up without really having to do much else, and we can access those settings. Now, earlier I had said that we had those camera settings. I'm not using a studio strobe right now. I'm using constant light, and that's why my settings are a little bit different. But we'll go ahead and run through a session, see how the images come out, and see if the exposure needs to be adjusted. But that should be it. If you are using, you can use manual or program with a DSLR. I wouldn't suggest any of the other modes. Manual if you're comfortable with it, or definitely if you're using a studio strobe. If you're not real comfortable with your exposure triangle, program's a good option, but that will not work with a strobe because it doesn't know that the flash is going to fire and it'll overexpose. So, and right here I'm using an R50. It's a good camera. I would not recommend it for a photo booth specifically because it doesn't have a center pin for the flash. A better option would be the R100. I use it specifically for video recordings for the help center. So that I just wanted to make sure that nobody goes out and buys the R50 because I have one. It's not a good option for a photo booth. And next up, we are going to connect our printer. And I'm using a DS40. So if it's a directly supported printer, typically you just click on the printer and click add printer, and it can see my media. And so that's adding a printer that's supported. Now let's say I didn't, the printer I wanted to use is not directly supported. I can scroll down right here and add a Windows printer, and I'm going to add my color laser printer, and that's set up for 8.5 by 11. Once again, I would not recommend this printer for a photo booth. I'm going to show you very specifically what I used it for, or what I use it for, but this is going to print on, it's a laser 8.5 by 11. So just want to put that out there. But you can add any Windows printer. So I have my DS40 added, and even though I have two printers, it's automatically going to print 2x6s and 4x6s because that's the media I have in here. If I had 5x7, I would have to enable that size if I wanted to print, but you typically don't want to print an odd size on a larger size unless you have a specific reason. But here's how you would enable or disable, and that controls, if you have multiple printers connected, what print goes where, and it's all based on the size. So the next thing to do, now that we've added the camera and the printer, is just turn it on, test it out. I'm just, for speed, I'm going to change it from 4 photos to 1, and hit my space bar, or I can tap the screen if it's a touch screen. And it's going to take 1 image. It's testing my camera and my live view and my printer. So now that we have just the basics added, those 2 things, we're able to go out and run an event. And let's see. So it printed just a single image. If it had captured 4 photos, it would have filled in those boxes. So one thing I did is I changed this, but if you set to match output, it will automatically set the number of photos to be captured to match the number of images in the template. And where this is real helpful is if you're using print alternate, which allows you to choose between multiple templates. One can have a single photo template and another one can have 3 images, and it'll only capture the amount of photos based on the template that's chosen. So typically I would suggest leaving this set to match output. So next on our list is sharing. So with Darkroom Booth 2024, we added Darkroom Phone, and that's pretty much already set up. All you have to do is enable that option. And same for photo email. If you just check those options, it should work. But you can also go into your email and online accounts and add a reply and sender name. So when they reply, it should come back to you rather than go to our mail server. For the people that don't fill that out, we actually get quite a few replies, and sometimes they're asking to hire you for an event, and we don't know we don't have an option to resend it. So it's a good idea to make sure you put that information in. Darkroom Phone is even easier. It just tells you that your maintenance plan is up to date and you're good to go. If your plan had expired, or if email or phone stopped working, go to your system info and check your maintenance end date. Make sure that it hasn't expired. If it has, then you'll want to renew it. That's one thing we get every so often, that somebody will say, I was using it and then it's worked well and then it stopped, and it's based on the maintenance end date, because it is required to have a current maintenance plan to use these options. So that is email and phone. I'm going to jump back over to my web browser, and this is Event Gallery. This is an option for sharing. You can see I typically share my family photos and soccer games, but here's a photo booth event that had a QR code. It printed it, uploaded the images, and then they can scan the code, and it took them directly to the image. And what's really cool about Event Gallery, and we'll get into it a little bit more, is if you have like a strip like this with 4 photos, you can include those the original photos, and they'll upload alongside and be tagged with the output image. So I saw somebody had asked about uploading or sharing the original images with phone. It wouldn't share the original images. It would share a link to your output image, and then it would the originals would be tagged so you can access them pretty easily. So it's not actually sending the original images, it's sending a link that has links to the originals. So to add a event gallery to Darkroom Booth, you can go to your API and just copy this. And what that'll allow you to do is link your account. So we can click add account, and then we're going to go with event gallery, paste, and now it's authorized. So those are the 3 things that I would suggest for new users for sharing. These 2 are built in. Event Gallery is $30 a month, and you can sign up at eventgallery.com. But the experience, even if you're sending via phone, the experience that the customer gets with Event Gallery is pretty helpful. That their images or originals and output are available through the link that you send or a QR code. Okay, so now we'll go back to output. We've enabled those 2 options, and we're going to check post to Event Gallery. And So this option right here, you can put in whatever name you have here. If you don't check the name and enter a name, it'll automatically use this option. The date, if you check it, then you can set it for a date in the future, and so you can do your testing, and then when that date comes, everything's still the same. If you don't check that option to use the date and you do your testing and you build your QR code that links to your gallery, you can run into an issue with it uploading to a different gallery based on the date. So it will automatically create a new gallery for every new day. And this is real important for events that are go after midnight, because you might be at a wedding that ends at 2 o'clock in the morning. Then your gallery would be split if you don't check the option. So it's a good idea to check the option for the name, put in a name. You can use the same name or you can use a different name. We'll call it 2024 so we can find it real easy. We're going to output the original images. If we wanted to, we could, because we're printing a 2x6, but if you wanted to, you can choose a different size. So let me see. We'll choose this one. So what's going to happen whenever it uploads, instead of using the print template, it's actually going to use that 4x6 template. And here's the option to upload the originals. So in Event Gallery and also in Photo to Phone and Email, you have the option to enable animations and do a GIF. But when it sends it, it's either going to send a GIF or the output. It won't send both. So typically I suggest, if you want to do animated files as well, Darkroom hot folder is a good option for that, where you just output using copy originals the animated file to a folder that will automatically upload to the same gallery. So that's a little workaround for that. But it's important to know that it won't do everything if you check all the options. It'll only send the originals in the output or the GIF. Okay, and then we also want to tag uploads by recipient. And so now whenever I start the session, we'll go ahead and leave it on 4 photos. And we're all still staying pretty basic here. We'll get into templates. The second half is all about templates. And then after this completes, we're going to cover very basic overview of video options. Okay, it should prompt me for delivery. I am not using a touchscreen, so I don't know where my mouse is. I'm going to do that one more time with a single photo just so we can see. Yeah. Controls. My mouse was hidden. Okay. And just so it's a little faster, we'll switch back to 1. Do black and white. And there is a new option that we added recently. That allows you to change the interface of that e-delivery prompt. And we'll get into that when we get into templates towards the end, because it can be a little bit complicated. And I also want to show you the sample templates that have a lot of that already set up. So I should have received an email with my image, but if I go to Event Gallery and let's go to the client site. Oh, I have it right here. Might still be loading. Here it is. So there's the original images. I took this one and we set it to a 4x6. So with the 4 photos, and I changed it to a single one. So that's why there's only one original with the second session. Okay. Let's see. View on client site. There it is on the client site. So it's just taking just a little bit to generate the site. But there are the images. If I click on this image right here, I can see my originals are available because they're all tagged together. So if I look at the email, I'd receive a link to this image, and this is what I would see. It would go straight into, this is not the best picture to stop on, but so that is some of the benefits of using Event Gallery. If I had just sent it and Event Gallery wasn't available, it would just send a link to this image on our Event Gallery. So you're missing traffic that you can turn into hopefully future profits by not having your own Event Gallery. And it's just a better experience, I think, for the customer. Okay, so we'll get back into talking about video. So if you're going to do video, there's a few different options you have there. It's just recording video, and you can use it for like confessional booths or those type of things where where you're talking to, let's say, the bride and the groom. You can hook up a microphone to your camera. Typically in Canon, those cameras are going to have an eye at the end of the Rebel name, but if you have a mic jack, you can plug in a mic and record audio. So there's video, there's slow-mo video. 360 booths are going to use slow-mo, but we have options for scripts, so it does kind of some jittery effects on the video. And then animated files like GIFs, there are 2 different options there. One's burst mode, which starts off as a video and then gets sliced up and then put back together in like a slower frame rate. So it starts as a video, but then it saves as a GIF, or you can also save it as MP4, but it has a that GIF effect that people are kind of used to. And then the other file is an animated GIF, where it still can output as a GIF or MP4, but the difference there is it starts off as a still images, and then they're then sequenced together in an animated file. And there should be right here, this will go a little bit more in depth into those 2 different options. But if you're going to do video, you'll want to install FFMPEG first. That's what's used for video compression. That was the main thing that I wouldn't consider video a beginner or a basic feature, but in order to get into it, it won't save the file unless you have this installed. So all you have to do is download it and then run it, and it will save a folder to your C drive. You can see it's going to C/FFMPEG, and that's it. That's all you have to do. And you can verify that by going in and in your C drive, and you should see it in the root of the C drive. Okay. But to learn more about videos, there's a whole section on this. Is all video questions and gets a little bit more in depth than we can today. So now we're going to jump into creating templates, and we are right on schedule. So we're going to start off with basics of just building a photo strip from scratch on a 2x6. We'll do vertical, and we'll do 3 images so that we have enough space for a logo. And this is a new feature that we added recently, using the aspect ratio. So you can set the aspect ratio here, and then you can also apply the same aspect ratio for in your screen template. So a lot of people have problems like making sure that the proportions are the same. So this is an option where you can set the aspect ratio, and you can also do it on an individual on the individual photos as well. I'll show you that in just a moment. Here we go. Size and position. You have the aspect ratio right here. So if you wanted to be 4x6, which should match up with your camera sensor, and that way you get the full image. And the math for that's pretty easy. It's just a 2x3 ratio. But the main thing is the proportions of the shape are the same. So if it's a square, it can be any size square. It's just equal length and height. So we have our 3 photos. Let's add some artwork. And my desktop, I have Darkroom logo. That doesn't show up so well. So this is where adding let's add an effect. We'll just go with gradient center. Yeah, that looks okay. We'll just push that to the back. Now we can see a little bit more, and I can increase that effect a little bit so it takes up more of the image. But we'll get more into these options here in just a moment. But that's our basic template. It's a 3 image 2x6. Whenever you print out a 2x6, automatically going to double up to 2 2x6s, because most printers are going to print on a 4x6 and then cut. Now, it is possible if you did have a 2x6 printer that you could print a single 2x6, but for the most part, it'll see that it's 4x6, and then Darkroom will automatically double it. Also, same thing with copies. A lot of people get confused. Darkroom is doing the math in the background, so if somebody selects 3 copies, it's automatically going to up it up to 4 copies, just as an even number, so 2 copies fit on 2 prints. Okay, so we got aspect ratios. We'll go ahead and give this a name. 2x6 blue logo. And one of the things that a lot of people will say, why didn't you just add the color in the background? I wanted to show that an effect can have some shape to it. So instead of the background color being white, I can then add this, and it's now blue down the center with purple edges. Or I can do a different mask, and we'll cover masks in just a moment, but those are real helpful. So we're going to go ahead and save it. So by default, Darkroom is going to save your templates into booth templates. And I think that's probably a good place for just generally, but recently we added an option where if you add a new folder in here, you can save your template separately, or you can organize your templates. I'm going to show you with some holiday templates in just a moment. So they're saved. I can't see it in this group because it is saved in my templates. So if we go to our setup, our global settings, we also have templates here, and you can see those are organized with the same grouping. So you can add templates here, or you can add them in this area. You have the option to add. So they do the exact same thing. Whenever you add it one place, they'll show up in the other. And we're going to download some templates in just a moment, but if you had an XBDR file, you can click add and then browse to it. And I have one inside that folder on my desktop. Oops, right there. And earlier I added that 8.5 by 11 printer that was specifically for a birthday party, where I don't think this is a one we went with, but it was a passport, so it gets folded 8.5 by 11 into 4 pieces, and it looks like a passport. So like I said, I wouldn't recommend that printer, like a letter document printer, unless you have a really good reason. So you can see what it looked like. And if I go to print sample, I believe I might not have that printer. Oh, there it goes. So it's it'll print out a sample. Also from this area, I can save a sample. So if I made a template and I want my customer to see it and make sure everything's spelled correctly, I can go sample, save sample, and then it will save to, in this case, my desktop. I can send this off to my customer and they can verify that everything's correct. You have the option to update those sample photos. It's in your X drive under sample photos. You just replace them with files so they're the same name. Okay, so let's get back into, we'll create a new template. This time it's going to be a 4x6, and we'll go with vertical. And I have some artwork in that folder. Let's see. Okay, so we got 2 different files that look the same. One of them's a JPEG, the other one's PNG. Click open on the JPEG, and I add my photo. I would add it on top of it, because JPEGs can't contain transparency. So in that situation, I have my background, my image node, and we talked a little bit about masks just a little bit ago. I can go to edit and get rounded corners that are more similar to the original design, and also drop shadow and frame. Let's see how close we are, and that's actually looking pretty close to what it originally looked like. So that is adding a graphic on top of a image on top of a JPEG graphic that does not have transparency. I'm going to show you the exact same thing, but using a PNG file. I'm going to add, I probably didn't need to delete that photo, but then now I'm going to add my artwork on top of it. And this file has transparency. I can see that it's blue when I would select it versus this one's white. So now when I add it, my image is behind the graphic and it's showing through. So if you wanted to have text or different design aspects that cover over part of it, that's where this comes in real handy. So we'll save that one as a okay. So that's transparency with PNGs. So we're going to go to darkroomtemplates.com and download some templates. I just want to show you what options you have. What's nice here is there are some just where you guys can start it out that are free, just so you can see how it all works. So let's see, we'll go with this option right here. Add it to the cart. We can see it's $0.00, and it comes with quite a few templates. Okay. Continues. Okay, just a second. I'm just purchasing. You guys don't need to see my address. Okay. So I have bought those templates. They're free. I'm going to download them. It's going to download it as a zip file. So we'll go to that folder. Here is that file. And what we're going to do is I'm going to extract it. And rename this folder, because we know we can have subfolders in our templates. So copy that guy, go into my X drive under booth templates. I'm going to paste it right here. And this is a third way to add templates. We looked at it through the global settings, also through output menu. So I can manually add a folder in. Now whenever I go to my templates, I have my holiday templates, and I can see these, move them around, and you can see this is it's a JPEG with a image on top of it, similar to what we had earlier. So I just wanted to show Darkroom templates as a option. We have a lot of designers from all over the place that design for Darkroom, and then we host the images and sell them for them. So it's a good place if you're looking for a template that you're not sure what kind of design you want to go with. You can browse through, maybe get ideas, or it's a good idea to purchase them. They're already pre-configured and you don't have to do any work. Okay, so we'll go ahead and minimize that. Or actually, the next on the list is one more thing. So it's no longer 2022 or 2020. What I'm going to do, instead of putting in the actual date, I'm going to type in the year, or %year %. And you can get some of this information from here. So let's just take that out real quick. If I wanted to put in the date in that form, it would automatically update. So that smart text that will automatically update your templates, and you don't have to remember to update it for the date, and those type of things. Okay. So yeah, anytime you're doing a template and you notice that it has a year just typed in, replace it with %year %, and it'll update for you. Okay, so next on the list is Canva. So we have, like I said earlier, there are quite a few users that are using Canva. I'm going to download. These are made for Darkroom Booth for iPad, but I'm going to show you how you can use them for Darkroom Booth. They're designs I put together that are free on the website. You can just do a keyword search for Canva, and then so let's go with this one. So if you wanted to go through and change it, maybe it's for a 5th birthday party or something along those lines, you can go edit. We're not going to get into Canva too much, but I just wanted to show you this is available. And then we will download this file. And I'm going to pull into Photoshop because we have green boxes and we don't want green boxes. We want transparency. So I'm going to use my selection tool. And on that same article, I have an action that will do this for you. So but I'm going to just select it. And it selected all the green. And now I'm going to create a mask and then invert the mask. And now I have a photo strip with transparency, and I'm going to save this as a PNG to that little assets folder. I'm going to simplify the name. One thing we run into a lot with support is file names having special characters. So if it said Eugene's with an apostrophe birthday, that might cause some issues. So try to leave out special characters inside your file names and folders. So it's saved. Now I am going to switch back into Darkroom and go to my templates because I don't want it to go into holiday. Click new. This one's a 2x6. Vertical, add artwork, browse, and now when I add my photos, I can just put them on top for right now. And I'm going to use Control C, Control V. So copy, paste. And I'm going to grab just these two. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to not be careful. Typically, I would use my arrow keys to get everything so it stays in a straight line. But instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these 3 nodes and go to align left, and now they're all straight lined up. It's not such a big deal with when you're using a PNG whether it's lined up, but if those images are on top of that graphic and they're not straight, that's not a good thing. So we're just going to drag this graphic on top, and you can see this is where PNGs come in real handy, that we have all these cool little options that are on top of the photo, hopefully not covering up anybody. But that's a PNG graphic, and those are available on Canva, and you can play around with them and update them and then save them and use them. Okay. One last thing that we're going to do on print templates. Ooh, we're kind of running out of time. I'm going to go with %gallery, %file. I think that's correct. And what it's going to do is going to put in the gallery and then the file name, or you can copy and paste the URL and then just it'll update with the file name. And so if I didn't get that correctly, because I did it kind of quickly, there is a guide that will cover this under the QR code section in the Help Center. But now I can add this to my print, hopefully small enough where it's not in the way. And you don't want to put it too close to the edge because it might get cut off. But then that's a QR code that they can scan and it takes them to images to download on Event Gallery. So if you try it and it doesn't work, check out the video on the Help Center. I'll cover it in more than 1 minute. Okay, so save as VDay 2x6. So one thing I would suggest that I haven't been doing here, but have some sort of naming structure so all your templates would then be by size. It's a good idea to put the size first and the orientation at the end, but you don't have to. It's just a good practice. Okay, so we're gonna go on to screen templates. Those are output templates, and those are used for prints, email, any type of output. Your screen is what controls what your customer interacts with. So real quick, I'm gonna go in and say, instead of a black and white button, I want it to be let's say antique or retro. I can go in and update the button, and let's say I want these all to be the same shape. Oops. Holding down Control to select multiple at a time, make same size. So now they're all lined up, or they all match. And then once again, we'll do align left, and now they are all lined up. And then one more time, space equal spaces, and now they're all spaced out equally. So just little things to make your designs look a little bit more cleaned up. One of the questions that we had, or one of the requests that we had for this webinar, was tips and tricks. So you can also add a graphic button. So I have my media library, and that's where I keep all of my graphics I use. Typically, I don't keep them on my desktop. That's just for today. So I got this. Let's say I wanted to add a beauty filter button. It's gonna apply a filter, choose, and that's how you would apply the filter. And we'll go ahead and start it afterwards. So these are graphics that I made in Photoshop. But there we go. We have now a beauty filter. When they click that, it's automatically going to apply that filter and then start the session. And that's adding a graphic as a button. So I used, I went into something called a media library. I want to show you that. That's another trick that I use. Just so let's say I wanted this to be a library, so it's easier to find rather than just keep it on my desktop. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my documents and just copy this folder in. So it's another little trick that you have. And then demo assets include in library, and create new library. So now whenever I go to quick access, there's my demo assets, just like I have my media library. So that's something helpful. It just makes it a little easier to find things. Instead of browsing through your computer, you can go to libraries, and it should show up right there. Okay, I said we would download some templates, some sample events. So we can go to our webinar page, And right down here, we have sample files. Click download. And then open that up. We'll extract all. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my X drive and take these two folders and dump it right in here. Make sure I'm not putting it into a subfolder, and it'll update. Excuse me. So now in Booth, we'll save that as a new template. So I'm not saving over the original. It's important that you try to avoid that, because you can always go back to it if you accidentally mess something up. So we'll save it. But now if I go into my screens after we just downloaded those files, you'll see that I have a whole bunch of new screens, and these are not only screens, they're also events. So let's select this one, and it's going to say there is information saved with it. I'm going to go ahead and create a new event, and this now has all the settings for a print alternate, where they can choose between 2x6s and 4x6s. They add an effect. That's a reprint button. So that's that one. We'll go to let's go into choose, and okay, the custom e-delivery. So we'll choose that one. This one, because we don't have a lot of time to go over how it's all set up, I just wanted to show you. Create a new event. So go into my controls and unhide my mouse so I can see what I'm doing. So it's going to go through, take 4 photos. And that should, instead of the normal layout, it's going to have the custom e-delivery prompt, which would allow me, I believe, to close that. So here I can, it's automatically printing, but you can actually add a print button here as well. But now I can enter an email address, and then so that's the e-delivery prompt. You can set it so you can add multiple email addresses, and then cancel. But I have an article that goes a little bit further into the e-delivery prompt under the sharing options in Darkroom Booth. Let's see. We had some upselling questions. Just real quick, if you want to sell online, photoreflect.com is a good option to look at. You can upload your images after an event and then sell online. If you want to sell additional enlargements, Darkroom Core is a pretty good option there, where you can output your images to a a folder and have Darkroom Core automatically import them in, and then you can print from there enlargements like 8x10s, 5x7s. Excuse me. But I've gone over both of those, but I just wanted to cover those two. Photo Reflect for online selling, Darkroom Core for additional selling at an event. And towards the end, we kind of rushed through a few things. I apologize about that. But I wanted to take this opportunity to answer some questions that we have. Molly, are you there?
Okay. There have been a few questions. I have been answering them all along, but does anybody else have any questions about what the topics were that he covered?
While we're waiting, there was somebody asked a question a little earlier via email about sharing using a QR code on a screen. That's where the e-delivery prompt comes in. So QR codes, sharing using an on-screen QR code. This video will walk you through that process. So the QR code would show up at the end, and they can scan the code and then have access to their images on Event Gallery. So if anybody has any other questions that don't get answered in the webinar, you're going to receive an email. All the people that registered will receive an email, and you should be able to reply to that, and then those questions can be forwarded on, and we'll either go into maybe a future webinar or turn into a video, so that hopefully we can cover everybody's questions. Outside event camera settings. If you're using a flash, your flash should be typically brighter than the sun. But if you're not, programs will help good there, because as the lighting conditions change, it'll adjust and compensate for that. If you use manual settings and you're outside, the sun goes behind the clouds, all of a sudden it's dark, and then they come out and the sun comes out and then they're overexposed. So program's a good option there, but a flash is typically stronger than the sun, so you don't have to worry about that if you're doing flash. Changing the sample photos are going to be under your X drive, and then sample photos, and those are the ones that we had. So you just replace these with your own images or graphics, and make sure they have the same names. The video will be available on YouTube and also on in our webinar section of the Help Center. There's already a place where it will be uploaded. This will be replaced with this video, so you'll be able to rewatch it and slow me down a little bit or pause. Okay, I think that'll wrap it up for this webinar. Let me know via email what you guys want to see for the next one. We'll go a little bit more in depth instead of just a survey over all the basic options. Go a little bit more in depth. Thanks everybody for watching and tuning in and contributing.
Y'all have a great day.
We'll see you later.